Welcome to Bitcoin Roadshow. This is Craig, and I want to talk about loaning. One of the most talked about areas in decentralized finance is, well, the two most talked about areas that I think are staking, which I've done one or two episodes on so far, and I wanted to actually get back right now before I continue on. Staking hasn't really worked out so well for Digibyte and Tomo yet. Digibyte, because they want you to stake on a small exchange, it's not worth the risk. It's not true staking, and for obvious reasons, they would have to have some algorithmic updates or updates in their blockchain to make that possible, where you could stake like you can on Zilliqa or Cardano or a few other networks. I like the Zilliqa and Cardano because they're both mineable tokens, not just there's other good blockchains like VeChain that aren't mineable, but I still got more trust in those that are like Ethereum, where the actual platform coin, the platform token for transactional costs is done in a mineable token, because you can't produce it for free. Simple, same as Bitcoin, right? But the other side of it is lending, not lending platforms per se, but just the whole concept of lending. And that's something I've just been watching a program on, and all throughout history, in the Bible and all sorts of places, you can see the stories of the miserly lender, or this is how a lot of the what do you call it, anti-Semitism it pops up, is because of the whole lending thing. Jews were restricted into the businesses they could work in, and then many became lenders. It wasn't the other way around, they became lenders. Well, from what I understand of history anyway, it was a situation where they became lenders because there was actually, and they couldn't work in many industries, so they moved into what they could do. But the lenders get a bad rap, but also the borrowers get a bad rap too, because you're a deadbeat lender, you're a deadbeat bidder, whatever it might be in life. So I was thinking, how do you solve this problem, or how should things be structured? So for example, in Islam, it's meant to be against their rules to profit. So usury is a sin in Christianity as well. So you're not meant to really profit from lending people money. But that's not the way of the world. You need to, if you're gonna make any sacrifice, whether that be energy, time, or putting your capital on the line, you should be rewarded for it, right? Profiteering is another thing. Price gouging is another thing. So just a fair profit margin. And of course, people would say, well, fair is what someone's willing to pay. Well, then that's where predatory lending comes in. So here's what a simple way for self-governance, because I don't like government in any shape or form. Self-governance, who should you lend to? What should be the conditions? And having been through a situation that nearly destroyed my life a few years ago, and my ex-wife's life quite a few years ago, 2013, because of an £800 amount, and then being the sneaky piece of shit that borrowed the money ended up saying that me and my ex-wife had basically robbed them, when he gave me two cell phones and a camera. He just chose to give them to me to hold. Look, honestly, I'm going to pay it back, but here, take this just as a sign of good faith. Next thing he says, I stole it. And then he pulled out of the whole situation, but then this super cop, stupid bitch, tried to push it, and not realizing the reason they wanted to. It wasn't because they were scared, it's because they realized they were breaking the law. But then when it went through the court, nothing happened, of course. Perjuring themselves was nothing. When the guy in the wig failed to make everything stick in the end, they just gave up and went, oh, sad. What about all these police that just lied under oath? Nothing happens, of course. We're living in a world of evil legal systems. But to govern yourself for lending to people, sorry for doing what I always do, which is detracting. My way of doing things would be this. If you lend people money, if it's a certain amount that you don't give a shit about, and the person's a good friend, it'd be like, right, this is a case where if they don't pay me back, oh well, that guy's a piece of shit and he's out of my life, and it only cost me $60 or $100 or whatever it is you can afford to say, that's the amount that this person's worth to get out of my life. If I find out they're a scumbag, you only cost me $100 to get out of my life. Oh, that's a bargain, you know. That's one way to look at it. If it's a bigger amount and you can afford to pay it, okay, what assets does the person have? If the person has no assets, so for example, what you're basically doing here is, right, you've got a new CBR, or you've got a 5-year-old CBR, whatever motorbike you have, or a BMW 1200R or something like that, right? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I want a contract. I want the keys. Sign it over to me. Or don't even go that final step, but just put something in a contract that this is yours in the event that I don't pay within this date. Make a date, when it's going to be paid by, and it's yours. You can choose later on if you don't get it, but it puts the ball in your court, puts the power in your hands. Because one thing that's the worst to have is when you give up something in good faith, and then little bastards, you find out they're sneaky and they've got you around the barrel. There's nothing you can do, because the law is always there to defend the side that's wrong. Okay? The person that's morally wrong will always win. The only time you can get around that is if you put checks and balances in place. And these are the checks and balances I'm talking about. So they've signed over a motorbike. Cool, here you go. Here's this equivalent value. Well, that value that you've given them, let's say they've given you a motorbike worth $6,000 and you've given them $8,000. Are you happy to lose the two? Because it's all about your liability. Your liability is a $2,000 liability there. Or the bike might be worth $6,000, but it's only worth $4,000 to you, because you might have a way of importing them from overseas or something and getting them for cheaper and just waiting for a while. You're not getting your money back for a long time, so you might want to think about that. But in the case, so that's what you weigh up. Do I get twice as much as what I'm loaning? Right? You've got a house. Sign your $40,000 apartment over to me that you got for cheap, because I'm giving you $20,000. Because the property prices might crash and it might go down to $20,000. You are covering your ass. And hey, it shouldn't be an issue, because if they're going to pay you back, and they plan to, why would it be a risk? If they start to and ah, you would start to think, hang on, why are you and ahhing? That would make me think that you plan to not pay back. Look into these things. Never feel guilty about setting the rules at the start of a deal like this. I've been screwed over so many times I can't even tell you. And I never ever screw over anyone in my life. And I don't mean to sound like Scarface when I say that, you know, the old movie. But I never have, right? And the law has never been on my side when I've borrowed money off an institute or anything, or and it's never been on my side when like, for example, I got done years ago in a student loan situation where they called it income. I didn't argue it within 3 months because I was the other side of the world. I came back 3 years later, and they wouldn't let me argue the case. I had to go to court to get the right to argue, not the right to show my evidence, the right to argue. So to this day, I'm paying $5 every 3 months, which is less than what I originally agreed. But I noticed that if I turned the frequency down, turned the amount down, they wouldn't come back to me and say, you've stopped paying. So I just reduced it. It's just a way around the bureaucracy of the system. Anyway, the other way to do things is, on that same token, when you're taking exchange for a loan that you're giving someone, it could be a friend, because they won't stay a friend once you give them a loan. They don't pay you back, regardless of what you think. So one thing is, right, I'm accepting that loss. I paid them out my life. You only cost $100. The other one is, I don't really want to take the guy's motorbike, but now I've got his motorbike. But he still hasn't paid me back. I didn't really want the motorbike. You're kind of still hindered anyway, but at least it's not a complete loss. You can sell the thing on. You might want to keep it a little bit longer. You might want to sell it straight away and get back 80% of what you've lost, or even make a slight profit on it. Whoever, they put you through shit, right? That's one way to do things. But the next thing is, the person hasn't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out, but they want X amount of money. Well, that person like that should be usually only wanting to loan a small amount of money. So, I don't know, are they worth you fronting up $100 or $50? If they are, fine, do it. If they're not, again, you haven't got any assets, you've got nothing to put forward. Hey, do you want to work it off for me? No. Well, fuck you then. That's what you say to them, because they're not doing anything for you. They want something for nothing. That kind of person will always have nothing, right? So there's no point giving the money to someone who actually plans to remain poor. And then the last one is, they've got nothing to give you, but it's actually a large amount. Well, they want to take a massive risk with your money. That's it. they're hoping to do one little stint that's going to make them everything, that's going to fix their lives, and it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen your money. So or let's say they have got an asset, they don't want to sign it over to you. Well, there you go. That's, you've planned not to pay back. Doesn't matter how big or small that asset is. You have ill intent, and this is actually how simple lending is. It shouldn't be that difficult. You are a scumbag if you make more than, let's say, I don't know. It really depends on the situation. If someone says, "I'm going to take your money," it's going to be a situation, but it's a surefire thing. I'm going to make 50% on top of it. I'll give you half. Then you're making 25%. Is not unfair to make if you're going halvesies. But just generally, you're a scumbag if you make more than 10%, and with a friend you shouldn't make more than 5, or even anything really. If someone's gonna pay money back in 2 months and you don't need the money, well, there's nothing wrong with just saying, hey, just lend the money, get it back to me. But I'm going to take that thing for security, just in case you fuck me over, because life is life. That's the way it is. That's probably how to handle a lending situation. I haven't oversimplified it, but the world would be a more simple place if people just apply these little kind of best practices to their own lives. Okay, cheers, bye.